In the Stonehaven fortress, a heavy, suffocating calm preceded the storm. The air seemed to hold its breath as Fenris knights and soldiers frantically prepared for the looming conflict. The sounds of metal clashing and heavy boots thumping against stone echoed through the courtyard. While some soldiers strained to bring massive stones to reinforce the formidable walls, others stacked arrows in neat, lethal rows near the battlements. Gillian, commanding in Ghislaine's absence, watched the activity with a sharp, discerning eye. He barked out orders, his voice cutting through the din of preparation, and commanded everyone who had finished their tasks to gather at the central square. At that moment, Gale Alberich approached, looking like a walking mountain of steel in his full armor. Seeing the dwarf fully armed and ready, Gillian was shocked. He hadn't expected such forwardness in his readiness. Alberich surveyed the men, his eyes narrowing as he asked Gillian if he had personally put all that armor on the soldiers. They both watched the sunlight glint off the newly forged plates of the busy troops. Gillian replied affirmatively, noting the excellent quality of the gear. Alberich grunted with a touch of pride, explaining that the armor was designed so arrows could never penetrate it and, crucially, it remained light. He wanted to ensure the men wouldn't be weighed down, requiring less strength to move around. Gesturing to a soldier testing his range of motion, Alberich explained that the knight's armor had also been improved with magic circles engraved by the mages. This feat of engineering and sorcery allowed them to infuse mana into the engravings to temporarily offset magical attacks, providing a layer of defense against enemy casters. With deep concern, Gillian turned his attention fully to the dwarf. He told Alberich that he and his kin were far too precious to be lost in a common siege. He asked if Alberich was truly okay with staying, the question weighted by the reality of the 30,000 men marching toward them. Alberich thought for a moment, his gaze drifting to the horizon. "Well, at least I won't die," Alberich said, knowing his worth. He knew many nobles desired his race for their smithing secrets. He sighed bitterly. If he had to live as a slave anyway, he would rather risk his life for the freedom the Lord promised him after 10 years. In a carefree tone, Alberich asked what good it would be if the Lord was gone by then. Though spoken lightly, Gillian knew he meant their hope was tied entirely to their leader's survival. A small smile curled Gillian's lips, appreciating the dwarf's grim honesty. Seeing the soldiers form disciplined lines in the square, Gillian asked if everyone was present. The silence was broken by a singular roar of yes. Gillian began the count. One priest. As he mentioned her, the priestess's face was a map of disappointment. She clutched her holy symbol, wishing she were anywhere but on the front lines of a massacre, her heart hammering in fear. Gillian continued the analytical tally: 10 mages, 100 knights, and 1,000 soldiers. It was a small force compared to what was coming. Fixing his eyes on the vast open field, he announced with grim finality, "And the enemy, 30,000. Outside the fortress stood the massive army of Count Harold Desmond, a sea of steel stretching as far as the eye could see. Hearing the numbers, the priestess felt as if she might have a heart attack. The knights were also nervous, their hands trembling as they adjusted their grips. Will Foy, in total panic and looking for the nearest exit, suggested it might be better to run. He tried to justify his cowardice, wondering if the Lord would really want them to die. Vanessa stopped him, her hand firm on his shoulder, stating it was already too late. The path back was closed. Seeing the palpable fear in the ranks, Gillian asked them, "Are you afraid?" He paced the walls, his cape billowing. He reminded them that their purpose was not to defeat the enemy, an impossible task, but to buy time until the Lord arrived. He warned them that if the fortress fell, the enemy would seize the territory, leaving nothing but ruin. "Your workplace, family, the place you built, it will all be gone," he said. Gillian's voice softened as he shared that he had received a new life and dreams from the Lord. As he clicked his helmet into place, his uncertainty vanished, replaced by sharp killing intent. "This time, it's our turn to protect the Lord's dream," Gillian said passionately. The soldiers and knights were moved, the fear remained, but it was replaced by a resolve to hold the line. Across the field, Count Harold Desmond studied the walls for a weakness. Victor's master, seeking to avenge his fallen disciple, informed the Count that the catapults were ready. Desmond called for his sixth circle mage, Willow. He asked if Willow had found the runestone traps used in previous sieges. Willow shook his head, his eyes glowing with magical residue. He confirmed that no runestone energy was detected, explaining that the surprise attack gave the defenders no time for such complex preparations. With confidence, Count Harold Desmond pointed his sword forward and ordered the catapults to fire. The command echoed down the lines, and 12 catapults launched massive rocks at the Stonehaven walls. The projectiles whistled through the air, their shadows briefly blocking the sun. Gillian immediately shouted for all units to brace for impact. The stones struck the walls with bone-shaking thuds, sending dust and debris flying. However, they caused no significant damage. The dwarven reinforcements hold firm against the assault. Seeing the walls will not crumble easily, Desmond orders his troops to advance. The ground vibrates as thousands of boots begin their march. Garbarek nudges Jillian, reminding him that the enemy is coming. Jillian doesn't skip a beat. He orders the men to clear away damaged batteries and commands the gunners to take their positions. The Fenris gunners launch massive arrows from giant dwarven crossbows, the mechanisms groan under immense tension before the bolts whistle toward the Desmond forces like screaming demons. However, the enemy soldiers intercept the arrows easily with their shields, keeping their formation tight. Victor's master observes the exchange, noting the wall's sturdiness. He points out that even with 12 catapults, the fortress remains largely undamaged, and the Fenris troops' response shows high discipline. Count Desmond narrows his eyes, recalling that the royalist faction recently received dwarf slaves. He wonders aloud if their skills were used to strengthen the walls, as it is the only logical explanation for such resilience. Desmond then orders archer formations 1 through 4 to sweep the battlements and clear away the defenders. A cloud of arrows rains down in a lethal torrent. The defenders brace for impact, but the arrows fail to dent their armor, bouncing off the high-quality plates like rain off a roof. Desmond is shocked. He has never seen infantry armor so effective against long-range volleys. Excited, one knight shouts that the arrows are simply bouncing off, staring at his chestplate in disbelief. Addressing Alberich as dwarf uncle, he asks what on earth he created. Hearing the praise, Gilbert gloats, his chest puffing with pride. As the soldiers realize their invulnerability to arrows, their morale skyrockets, and they fire back with renewed confidence. Seeing his tactical advantage evaporate, Desmond grits his teeth. In a furious tone, he orders his mage, Willow, to burn the defenders out. Willow begins channeling a massive six-circle spell with the support of other mages. Gale Barrick, nervous, points Jillian toward the sky. An ominous violet cloud forms above Stonehaven, swirling with dark energy. Jillian recognizes it as high-level magic, a sight that usually signals the end of a battle. With a devilish smile, Willow tells them to watch their heads, promising a rain of fire. Huge fireballs scream down toward the walls like falling stars. The soldiers freeze in terror at their impending doom. Gilbert curses, realizing that while their armor nullifies magic, it cannot stop the sheer heat of such wide area destruction. He tells everyone to seek shelter under the roofs. However, in a cold, commanding tone, Jillian orders everyone to stay in their places. The soldiers think he has lost his mind, but Jillian reassures them that there is nothing to fear, pointing toward the mage tower. At that moment, the wind gathers into a violent vortex on the fortress wall. Vanessa, in an incredible peak state, casts her own six-circle spell, Wind Curtain. A massive shield of compressed air deploys, blocking the fireballs. They explode against the barrier and dissipate into smoke. As the sky clears to reveal the sun, the soldiers stand in utter shock at their survival. Willow's eyes widen. He cannot believe his spell was defeated so easily. He wonders if this is the mage who swept away the Zippel forces, realizing he faces a caster of immense talent. Vanessa is exhausted, panting heavily as her body trembles from mana depletion. Wolfoy and the other mages are on their knees, drained after Vanessa borrowed their mana to fuel the shield. Wolfoy whines about his aching head, but Vanessa sternly tells him not to lose focus. The danger is far from over. Count Desmond finally comes to his senses. His best magic failed to leave a scratch. Victor's master requests new instructions, but Desmond remains silent as he analyzes the situation. The siege weapons, arrows, and six-circle magic have all been countered. Desmond realizes that even without Ghislain present, this army is not inferior to his own. His face darkens as he reflects on his recent impulsive actions. "It isn't like me," he mutters. Then, he smiles, a cold, unsettling expression. He views this as divine providence. He feels that if he doesn't destroy them now, he will never be able to defeat Ghislain in the future. The threat would only grow. With a tone promising total destruction, Desmond orders the entire army to move. He wants all 30,000 men to charge at once. "We must erase that fortress from the map now," he declares, his eyes burning with dark, obsessive fire as he prepares for the final, bloody assault.